Hello and welcome to Wasted Plotential, the show where we discuss the wasted potential of our favourite plotlines. I've already spoken at length about how bad the Mortal Kombat franchise, once my favourite franchise in all media, has gotten since Warner Bros. Purchased it back in 2009. At length, meaning our plus-long critique to the 2011 reboot and its 2015 sequel, Mortal Kombat X. In fact, this very episode was originally going to be a part of the latter critique before I came up with the idea for this show. As such, I didn't want to bore you guys by retreading old ground, but understanding the storyline of the games is important for this show, so I need to quickly summarise this 25-year plotline so we know where we're up to. And watching those critiques will give a greater understanding of my mindset going into this one. Mortal Kombat was initially about a martial arts tournament that would determine the fate of Earthrealm. If the forces of Outworld won 10 straight tournaments, Emperor Shao Kahn could legally invade. His forces are defeated by the Shaolin monk Liu Kang, who then beats the Emperor himself twice, once in a fake tournament and once when he invades via loophole. The fallen elder god Shinnok attempts to invade Earthrealm in MK4 but is also beaten by Liu Kang. After the Deadly Alliance and the Dragon King Onaga, the next threat is the end of all reality in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. To prevent reality from being destroyed, a lesser god, Argus, sets up a contest for his sons where they must kill the elemental Blaze to obtain ultimate power. Shao Kahn kills Blaze first and obtains the prize. This brings us to MK 2011, where only Kahn and Earthrealm's protector god Raiden are left standing. On the verge of death, Raiden sends visions and an unnecessarily cryptic message back in time to his past self during MK1 in the hopes of preventing Kahn's victory in the new timeline, even though that's not what Armageddon was even about. Raiden's attempts to work out his future self's plans ultimately gets most of the heroes killed in a single scene set during the new version of Kahn's invasion. Raiden is able to work out that he needs to let Kahn win so that the Elder Gods will intervene and kill him, which doesn't go over well with Liu Kang, who is then accidentally killed by Raiden. Raiden's plan works and Kahn is killed, preventing Armageddon from happening, but leaving Earthrealm in a much weaker state than it was by this point originally. Most notably because Shinnok's enforcer, Quan Chi, has transformed all the dead heroes into his undead slaves, including top tier fighters like Sub-Zero, Kung Lao and Liu Kang. This is where MKX begins, retelling Shinnok's invasion with Raiden and the two remaining warriors, Sonya Blade and joke character Johnny Cage, bringing in Kenshi and Fujin and struggling to fight back. For the first chapter, before Shinnok is beaten when Johnny pulls previously unknown power out of his arse and the invasion is stopped in an afternoon by 5 people. Then the story jumps forward 20 or 25 years and follows the next generation kids of the old characters. Quan Chi is attempting to release Shinnok from his imprisonment, while Outworld is in the middle of a civil war between Kotal Kahn and Melina. The civil war is ended thanks to the kids, Kotal Kahn turns out to be a massive prick, and the new hero Cassie Cage defeats Shinnok. The game ends ominously as Raiden is now a dark anti-hero, and the undead heroes who weren't saved now can't be because Quan Chi is dead. It's all horribly anticlimactic after 4 years of expecting the situation to be dire for Earthrealm. Again, watch the critique for more detail on all the other ways in which the game fails, but here, let's move on to the reimagining. My main issue with MKX's premise in theory is not the Tekken 3 style time skip that ruined Soul Calibur's storyline, hint hint, but rather that the previous game actually did set up a fascinating starting point for its sequel that was utterly wasted. As horrendous as it was for anyone with taste, when Sindel walked into the room and systematically slaughtered all the heroes as they stupidly engaged a one-on-one in hand-to-hand, what it set up is the highest stakes the series had seen since Armageddon. Raiden's actions leave Earthrealm in a seemingly unwinnable situation where MK4 still happens, but with most of Earthrealm side from the old timeline as well as a bunch of characters who weren't involved in MK4 originally now being on Shinnok's side, forcing Raiden to seek new allies where he can after being left with 2 people. You have to admit there's a lot of potential for a really thrilling story here about Earthrealm, desperately struggling to fight off an enemy whose forces grow larger with every victory they claim thanks to their necromancy. But to properly explore this setup, we need to drop the next generation premise entirely and make MK4's events span the entire story rather than just a single chapter of 4 fights. In the game, Shinnok waits 2 years before making his move despite Earthrealm being on the brink of ruin after Kahn's invasion. My version begins only a few months after the last game. Earthrealm is still recovering from the last invasion when Shinnok begins his, having been released earlier and stepped up his plans due to having significantly more support than in the original timeline. During this time, Raiden has been travelling Earthrealm to forge alliances, while Sonya prepared the special forces and Johnny trained with the Shaolin under Master Bo Rai Cho. Through Raiden's remaining visions and their combined efforts, they pull in Earth's lesser gods and various Earthborn warriors, good or evil, such as Kenshi, Kai, Shujinko, Frost, Kira, Cobra, and even the Red Dragon clan, none of whom whom want to see Shinnok conquer Earthrealm, though Red Dragon founder Dagon's allegiance is likely to change if things go poorly. Earth's forces are ready to make a stand against Shinnok's forces as they enter Earthrealm through a massive portal featuring Shinnok, Quan Chi, Scorpion, Tanya, Reiko, Moloch, Dramin, and the 10 Revenants. Needless to say, even with their new allies, the Earthrealmers are outnumbered and the fight doesn't go well. We see unpopular characters like Mavado and Su Hao given a second chance to impress fans instead of just being casually tossed aside in the comic, but also possibly dying in service to their homeworld. Raiden is left with the realization that Earthrealm cannot do this alone. Fujin and Bo Raicho convince Raiden to take his best fighters and flee to other realms to forge further alliances while they remain with the rest of Earth's armies to keep up the fight with Shinnok. Yes, this is sounding an awful lot like Mass Effect 3, but that's really what they were setting up before doing the next gen thing instead. Raiden takes Johnny, Sonya, Kenji, Shujinko and Kai with him through a portal as he lays out the plan, split into two groups led by himself and Sonya to travel to two other realms to form alliances. Sonya leads Johnny and Kai, mentored by Johnny here instead of Liu Kang, to Outworld where the Civil War is taking place, while Raiden takes Kenshi and Shujinko to Order Realm where similar events are playing out as seen in MK Deception. Kotal is willing to help, but there's nothing he can do while Outworld remains divided. He promises that if Sonya's team assists him in defeating Mileena and claiming the throne, he will personally lead his armies into battle with Shinnok. Sonya agrees to his terms and their side of the story deals with battles against most of the established Outworld cast who are on Mileena's side. The Black Dragon clan are also involved, secretly selling weapons to both sides. In Order Realm, Raiden has to deal with both the civil war between the rebels and the establishment, as well as the long-standing rivalry with Chaos Realm, bringing Havoc into the fray as a wildcard. Raiden spends time assessing the conflict and judging who best to side with. Through the return to the Order and Chaos Realms last properly seen in Deception, we're able to re-establish this side of the MK universe for newer fans, while providing fan service for older fans who liked those elements and making a few adjustments to make them more palatable for those who didn't. As it currently stands, these realms have been largely ignored for a solid decade. In each realm they travel to, Revenants and other followers of Shinnok arrive to support the other sides in each conflict to gain them as allies against Raiden, whom Shinnok views as the greatest threat to his rule. In time, allies are gained, Revenants are restored, enemy factions are defeated, and Raiden finally has a force large enough to go back and reclaim Earthrealm. The return is not a triumphant one, as Shinnok has conquered most of the realm, leaving only a handful of notable warriors left with Bo and Fujin. Those that have been killed by Shinnok's forces are now also Revenants, making things all the bleaker for Earthrealm. By this point, most of the heroes from MK 2011 have been restored or killed for good, but Liu Kang is among those that remain, standing faithfully at Shinnok's side, fueled by his utter contempt for Raiden. The heroes assault Raiden's Sky Temple, which Shinnok has chosen as the seat of his power in Earthrealm. Raiden manages to defeat Shinnok and Liu Kang and through some means sacrifices himself to restore the humanity of Liu Kang and the other remaining heroes, apologising to them before he dies. Shinnok revives in his demon form for the final fight, which sees Liu Kang restore his position as the hero of Earthrealm and honour the sacrifice of his fallen mentor by destroying Shinnok once and for all. Throughout all this, we get to see events from the perspectives of other characters and develop them some more, instead of just following two groups with less than half the roster being playable. We follow Mileena as she attempts desperately to cling to the old status quo since, without Shao Kahn or Katana in her life, she has no real sense of self as her entire purpose in existing was to serve her emperor and eventually replace her genetic template. Baraka is still loyal, naturally. Meanwhile, Ermac, Scarlet and Meat understand her existential crisis, being creations of Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung themselves, joining her willingly after Ermac's free will is restored by Kenshi as in the old timeline. Mileena survives the story and begins to forge her own identity, possibly eventually becoming Katana's ally. Trust me, I've got a lot to say about this mishandled character, and many others too. We see the Order Realm civil war from both sides, and Havoc manipulating those involved in order to perpetuate it. We see a group of Revenants defeating warriors in each realm they travel to build bonds with the other factions. As they start being freed, they turn their attention towards freeing the others, most notably Sindel making things right by restoring her daughter Kitana and Kitana's best friend Jade. The Elder Gods have pulled the original Sub-Zero, Bi-Han, from the Soulnado that seemingly killed him last time, and cleansed him of Quan Chi's control, leaving him somewhere between his noob Cybot and Sub-Zero forms in terms of ability, with a Black Ice power like he had in some other video series. He becomes the new champion of the Elder Gods, mirroring his nemesis Scorpion's role in Deception. Bi-Han's primary concern is saving his brother from Quan Chi's hold, making this the inverted reflection of the two brothers' roles in Deception and Armageddon that I always wanted to see. To that end, he confronts his old nemesis, revealing that it was Quan Chi, not Sub-Zero, that wiped out Scorpion's family and clan, turning him into a temporary ally. Through their alliance, the two undead nemeses are able to achieve redemption in freeing Smoke, creating an inverted parallel of Noob Smoke, and then the younger Sub-Zero before killing Quan Chi. Kuai Liang remains a cyborg, leaving us with no standard Sub-Zero until a new Cryomancer is introduced in the sequel, rather than backpedaling and making Kuai Liang human again. During the epilogue, Bi-Han, Kuai Liang, Scorpion and Smoke unite to defeat the cyberized Lin Kuei, killing Sector, restoring Cyrax and creating a new clan to defend Earthrealm. But unbeknownst to them, their actions have unleashed Sector's ultimate backup weapon, Triborg. There are other setups for the sequel, maybe even the return of Onaga, but we ultimately end on a brighter note, with Liu Kang marrying Kitana, Sindel abdicating the throne of the newly restored Edenia for the next generation to take over, and/or Liu Kang becoming the new protector god of Earthrealm. Some other heroes get together, patch up old relationships, find redemption, and pay homage to Raiden's sacrifice. Maybe have a mid-credit scene to set up Dark Raiden as a threat for the next game. Done.
In my realm, Liu Kang and Kitana rule Edenia. In mine, they govern the Netherrealm. Whose incompetence led to this folly?
Now, I'd never say that my alternate takes are ideal. I'm sure there's a lot that could be improved, but this is a scenario that pays tribute to the franchise's history and legacy, both mostly absent from the actual game, gives some payoff to a whole bunch of character storylines, and takes advantage of the incredible potential they've been given over the years, and has more variety in stages, player characters, perspectives, and fight setups than the limited locations, mostly unplayable cast, and pointless filler fights that every NetherRealm story mode has been restrained by since 2011. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and check out some of these other videos? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you.